Thank you for joining us for Open Line tonight. Mayor David Briley here with me, and Lonnell Matthews Jr., Public Safety and Youth Policy Advisor, answering your questions tonight. We've had lots of them. Before we get back to the phones, I want to talk about body cameras. The conversation was stirred again with this latest police officer involved shooting, because everyone says if we just had another view, maybe we would understand more. Right? So what is the deal? Why don't we have cameras on officers right now? So
we started with, I think, 11 companies that submitted a bid to provide cameras to the city. Many different technologies, both in terms of how the cameras work and how the video is stored. And it takes some time to narrow it down. We've narrowed it down to 3, and we'll be testing one of them in the fall and then fully deploying in the spring. So I know people are right to feel like it's taken too long, but the process that we run, to be fair, does take more time than it would take for an individual just going out and buying one for themselves. And it's a developing technology as well, so we wanted to be cautious so that we didn't invest a lot of the taxpayers' money in something that ultimately did not work. Lonnell, did you have something to add?
No.
Are you good? Okay. I thought you wanted to chime in up there. Let's go back to the lines then. We have, I'm trying to see who's next. Ronnie here on the line. Ronnie, thank you for your call. Or question, what is it?
Oh, how you doing? I had a question for Mayor Briley, but first I wanted to address real quick what that lady called that called in a few minutes ago. She was talking about the lack of raises and all that for the Metro officers. Well, their median salary is $50 grand. So I mean, even if they're making that, they're doing better than excuse me, most people, especially considering that, according to an FBI statistic, 80% of police officers in America are overweight and below average IQ. So,
do you have a question?
I do.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask Mayor Briley what he was going to do as far as putting a policy in place to prosecute whether they're officers or whoever that commit cold-blooded murder, shooting people in the back. I mean, don't you think there needs to be a policy in place to prosecute people that are shooting people that are 20 feet away from them, running from them? I mean... Okay,
I'm gonna cut you off because I think it's pretty standard. I mean, we do have a justice system, right? If the TBI is conducting this investigation...
Right. Well, I mean, I think after the Clemens shooting, the police department and the district attorney entered into a memorandum of understanding, so that in the case of police shootings, the TBI will come in immediately and investigate the shooting independently, and the district attorney then will make a decision about whether or not to charge under particular circumstances. And I have a high level of confidence in the TBI that they're going to do an independent and thorough investigation, and that the district attorney then will make a fair decision about what to do next. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, it is the way it works, and I think that most people know that. And when you call Open Line, just, you have to ask questions that are rational. That's all I ask, and that are respectful of all involved. I know this is a high-stress situation for our entire city, and emotions are running high, but we also have to keep a level head and explore this issue and the many issues that come along with it with just open minds and just a level of respect to all involved here. So let's go back to the lines here. We have Bill on the line. Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
I got a quick comment and a question.
Sure.
Any loss of life is tragic, and if there's something we can do to prevent more, that would be great. But both of the last officer-involved shootings, both of the persons that were shot did have guns. When are we, as a society, going to say enough is enough, and let's start holding these people accountable that are committing crimes and quit blaming the police department?
Okay, thank you, Bill, for your question. I think that's really just a broad statement, because it's not something that the city can just do. That's obviously a federal conversation about gun control. Let's go to Gail here. Hi, Gail.
Hello.
Hi.
I know you guys just basically touched on the body cams, but Mayor Briley, you said that in the spring we would have body cameras. Chief Anderson said last week that body cams wouldn't be available for the entire police force until 2020. So which is it? And why is it taking so long? Because you could simply call other police departments across the country and say, what are you using? What company are you buying them from?
Very fair question.
To have the money available in October of 2017, and the chief said, not what you just said, but what the chief said, they would come, they would be enforced 2020. That's a long time to wait.
Yeah, well, it's my understanding that we'll be deploying them in the spring of this coming year. Now,
for all officers.
For all officers. Now, we're putting them in cars too, so maybe that's what the chief is talking about in terms of it'll take some time just to get them installed in all the vehicles.
Okay. Well, and we'll ask that question too, Gail, of the chief as well next time we sit down with him.
And we'll, I'm sure, be back in the spring to be asked the question,
yes.
What's going on?
Exactly. Let's go to Tim now. Tim, thank you for your call. What's your question tonight?
Well, a statement and a question.
Okay.
The statement is, I guess we're talking about the policing project versus the Community Oversight Board. My question is, after my statement, why reinvent the wheel? We currently have the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, whose purpose is to promote superior public safety training services and recognize professional excellence. The program standards are derived from the best practices of professional public safety training academies, not to conflict with the organizations that are recognized training authorities. So what they do is they come in every 2 years, I believe it's every 2 years, they look at every policy that the police department has. They make sure that the police department is up to national standards in the way that they police in the community. So that would address this public policing policy
project.
The policy project.
What is different? Why do we need both?
Oversight board.
Well, in terms of the policing project, it is an effort to bring the entire community together to both look at the data we currently have about how we're policing and to build a broad consensus about how we want to police going forward, to look at policies, to look at the way we are policing particular communities, to look at a cost-benefit analysis of how it is all working. I do think it's critically important that the police department and police officers and law enforcement be a part of that conversation, and just so we can have this broad consensus. The Citizens Oversight Board is really something different, I think, as we talked about. It's not an either or, it's a both and when it comes to both the policing project and the Citizens Oversight.
Because I just picked up from his language, he said
Mayor,
go ahead.
Exactly what I'm talking about. The Commission for Accreditation on Law Enforcement does just exactly what the policing policy does. We already have that in place. We already have a Citizens Review Board in place. It's called the Davidson County Grand Jury. Why reinvent the wheel? You're reinventing the wheel because you don't like what their answers are.
Well, I appreciate the comment very much, but we've had 2 officer-involved shootings that resulted in the death of individuals in our town in the last year and a half, and that's too many for me. And so what I think we need to do is to look closely at how we're policing and to do everything we possibly can to minimize those instances where an officer is going to have to make that split-second decision about using a gun. And so that's what the policing project is all about. It's about finding ways for us to be safe in a more productive way. And I don't think that every single instance of police misconduct is something that rises to the level of the grand jury. And so we have members of our community who want to be involved in making sure that the police department has trust of everybody in our town, and I think that's a fair thing to ask.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. Thank you for your call. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us.